Hello, I'm Mike Shearer, Executive Editor of The Dispatch and Dispatch.com, and this is From the Editor, our weekly podcast on our Sunday cover stories in The Dispatch and online. I'm here today with Jim Weiker, our real estate, growth, development, and all things reporter that Jim does here for us, on what is actually one of his final days in the office with us as he's retiring here very soon. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's kind of hard to believe this is, we haven't been doing these for very long, but it's kind of hard to believe your tenure at the Dispatch is coming to an end here soon.
Well, it is. It's very hard to believe. It's been a nice, long ride for me. I'm going to miss it, but yeah, the time's right.
Okay. So today's cover story is about Nationwide Arena, which opened 25 years ago this fall here in Central Highland, Columbus, in what's now known as the Arena District. So I thought maybe we start for those who aren't familiar with what was at the Arena District before there was an Arena District. And, you know, I remember in high school in the late 80s, I don't want to date myself here too much, but driving along the road there and the old Ohio State Pen was standing there in its decaying glory, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
But what all was in this area now that is now known as the Arena District?
Well, not much.
Not much.
Besides the Pen,
Yeah.
which dominated the site, and by that time, of course, was in full decay. By the time it was demolished, it hadn't been used in a while. But it did dominate the site. There wasn't much of anything around it. It was really a neglected corner of downtown. There'd been a lot of talk about revitalizing that area, but really nothing had been done with it. No one was quite sure even what to do with it before the arena came along.
Okay. So Columbus for a long time was a city without a major arena. We had St. John Arena at Ohio State, which is obviously very old and fairly small. We didn't have a modern arena like they had in other markets. So Ohio State built the Schottenstein Center, and that opened in 98.
Right.
And then in 98, your story begins here on the anniversary of Nationwide Arena, that this began with Columbus leaders deciding to seek an NHL team and bring professional hockey to Columbus. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you're right. When the Schott opened, there was a lot of talk, you probably remember, about whether Columbus could support two arenas.
Yeah.
Of more or less the same size, both focused on sports. But the NHL, you had to have a dedicated hockey arena to get a franchise. So the people who were behind the team pursued, obviously, a franchise. They were awarded one on the condition that they have, among many conditions, that they have an arena. There were several votes, public votes, to publicly fund an arena.
Yeah.
The last one failed in 1997. Just a few weeks later, that left this big question. You know, we have to have an arena.
Yeah.
We only have a very short window to convince the NHL that we can build one. This was for the 2000-2001 season. So Nationwide Insurance, just within weeks of the failed vote, said, we will build an arena, and we'll build it here. Yeah. By that time, the location had largely been decided. So it became a privately funded arena. There obviously were some public incentives, but Nationwide bankrolled most of it. The Wolf family, the former Dispatch owners, and a couple other families helped, but it was privately funded when it opened and was built.
And I had my dates slightly off there a minute ago. There was 96 when they first petitioned for the team, and so the shot was being built. We were building one arena while we were seeking to build a second one.
That's exactly
so that probably did not help the vote there with the public at that point.
No, it didn't.
Okay. All right. So today we all know, I think pretty much everybody in Columbus has been to some kind of event at Nationwide Arena, whether it's a concert or it's a Blue Jackets game or what have you. Talk about what we now have in this neighborhood versus, as you said, it was basically an old pen 27, 28 years ago. Today, it's a much different place.
Well, the plan from the get-go was to use the arena as the anchor of a large mixed-use development. Strange enough, you mentioned my retirement. One of the first things I covered when I got here 25 years ago was the opening night of the arena. Okay. So for me, it's come full circle.
Yeah.
But and Nationwide Realty Investors, a sister company of Nationwide, pursued from day one developing the neighborhood right around the arena. There was always meant to be a mix of uses, offices, apartments, residences, retail, some other entertainment venues, and that took off pretty quickly, and has largely, of course, been a success, as anyone who's been down there would know. It's become enormous. It stretches now, of course, from Front Street to the river, if you include lower.com.
Yeah.
It has evolved in a different way than was originally expected. I think they had hoped, well, there's no question, they had hoped for more retail. That never materialized. Part of it was they opened soon after Easton opened. That took a lot of the wind out of those sales. And of course, Columbus City Center was still very vibrant when it opened, which was also competitor for retail. Retail never evolved there. It really grew on the strength of offices and residences, and of course, sporting events.
Yeah, sporting events and concerts, and
right.
And there are a handful of restaurants down there too, obviously.
Yeah, to be sure.
Okay, so I mean, it's total investment is $2.2 billion. You write, stretching from Front Street to the Olentangy River and West Spring Street to I-670. So that's a pretty big area.
Right.
And it's a lot of development that basically was nothing 25 plus years ago.
Right.
But you also have that. You have the Huntington Field, the stadium for the Clippers, AAA baseball. And now down the road, we have lower.com Field, the home of the Columbus Crew MLS soccer team. So there's a lot going on in that area. And there are nights when you have, I know I got stuck in traffic there one night when we had you have the concert venue there next door too. There was a concert, a Crew game, and a Clippers game, and it was not pretty, and a concert nationwide at the same time. So it's kind of hard to believe that that's now the problem that sometimes is traffic, I guess.
Yeah, it can be a full house.
Yeah.
That's a problem, of course, they don't mind having in a sense, although access can be very tricky, especially from the Crew Stadium.
Yeah.
But you're right, that was nothing, years ago. And the most people I've talked to about this over the years will tell you that Huntington Park, Crew Stadium, would not have been built had it not been for the arena itself. Yeah. It really, I don't know if it's unique in the U.S., but it's unusual to have 3 sporting events in that kind of proximity. I realize they're not all major league, the Clippers aren't, but they're all fairly new, and they all certainly have a dedicated audience.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the finances of the arena have not been as successful over the years. You write about this quite a bit here. So a couple of different things. There's a need to renovate, which we'll get to here in a minute. But more importantly, it was privately built, as you described earlier, by Nationwide and by the Wolf family, paid for the $175 million construction. But not long after that, the Blue Jackets were struggling to make money, and so they had lost $80 million. And then there was basically a plan to take the arena public from private. And let's talk about that a little bit, how that works, and go from there.
Well, the Blue Jackets, of course, they're the main tenant of the arena.
Yeah.
Will tell you that the franchise, after the first 2 years, flat out didn't make money. And this became a growing problem, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. These aren't thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars. Yeah. And in 2009, the franchise announced that they had lost at that point about $80 million on the Blue Jackets since they started. The only way that most people saw out of that was to get out of the lease agreement. And the only way out of that, according to a lot of people at the time, was to make the arena public. Mm-hmm. That, as you can imagine, was not popular, particularly since this was billed as a private venture.
Yeah.
But in fact, in 2012, that is exactly what happened. The arena was sold from Nationwide to something called the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority, which owns the convention, owns the Hilton.
Yeah.
They now manage that and own it. And they've owned it now for 13 years. That allowed the Blue Jackets to get out of their lease. And that was huge. The Blue Jackets pay no rent in the arena.
Wow.
Yeah. That, of course, changes the finances for the team.
Considerably.
Considerably. The hope originally was that much of that obligation to pay the debt on the arena would be borne by casino tax revenue. That never grew as much as people had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
And this became a problem for two reasons. The big problem was it didn't allow the authority to sort of bank money in anticipation of expenses,
mm-hmm.
additions, improvements.
Fixing the roof, things like that, yeah.
In 2019, this became a growing issue. In 2019, the county tried to offset that by applying a tax to tickets at the arena. Some of that went into the authority to continue maintenance. But the authority has been unable to build up a real savings to fund improvements and even some simple maintenance.
So that 5% tax, though, did pay for the new roof this summer.
That's right.
Yeah. So $8 million roof installed this summer, which was 25 years of wear and tear on that. Right. Makes sense. So now that brings us to the bigger plan. They say it cost $175 million to build it. They want $400 million to do all kinds of changes, including moving the entrance further out so that your people are covered longer to get inside with security. Right. And all that, move the Jackets offices into another building and create space for artists and stuff like that. So tell me about, what is the plan there, and how might that be funded in the future?
Sure. You're right. It's a lot of money. It's more than, more or less 2.5 times what the arena costs to build.
Yeah.
There are a lot of parts to that puzzle. Some are more mundane, a little more, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Some electrical functions, some HVAC issues, escalators, elevators, those sorts of things. The two main components of what would be a true upgrade that, visitors would see are concessions and the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
The entrance in particular, the arena people will tell you, has become a real bottleneck.
Yeah.
And for most people who have been to events there, they can probably understand that.
Yeah.
One reason is the NHL requires metal
yeah.
detectors now. That was not the case when the arena opened. Times have changed. That can really slow traffic getting into a game. So the arena owners want to build out that entrance, providing a much wider entrance, more doors that will allow people to funnel in
mm-hmm.
to the arena much more quickly. To do that, they have a plan to buy the neighboring building. It's 175 North Front. It's owned by Nationwide Realty Investors. That would allow them to sort of link that. If you look at the arena, it looks like it's part of the arena. It's not. It's actually a separate building to the right as you're going in. That would allow them to more seamlessly build this entrance. It also allows them to do the other thing that they really want to accomplish, and that is improve the concession area. The concession areas in newer arenas are more elaborate. Mm-hmm. They're more varied. One thing in particular that a lot of arenas offer now that the Nationwide doesn't is sort of a grab-and-go option. Yeah. We were over in Gamebridge to see an Indiana Fever game a few weeks ago, and they've done a big improvement. And they have this sort of, it's almost a concession stand or like a convenience store in a way inside the arena. You can go in, you can grab a beer, grab a pop, grab chips, whatever, and take them right back to your seat. You're not queuing up in a concession line. They want to do that, but they also want to do something much more expansive and that has seating. Buying the neighboring building would give them the space to do that. It would also give them space to move the Blue Jackets offices into that office building, which would give them space to improve the VIP rooms or the green room for performers. Arena people will tell you those facilities are not obsolete, but they are below industry standards now. Artists expect a lot more luxury than they used to.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? We all do, for sure. And all of this is sort of one domino kind of leads to another.
Yeah.
But the whole package, as you said, is $400 million. That's a lot of money. The arena people are maybe alone in Columbus, who knows, were very happy to see the state pass this unclaimed funds bill for the Browns. The arena owners announced this $400 million plan, not coincidentally, I'm sure, just as that was going through the legislature.
Yeah.
Their hope, of course, is to piggyback on that. Now, there are limits to how much you can do, but they are hoping they can get $100 million out of that fund and then pay for the rest, the $300 million or so, with other public funds, county, city, and get some help from the Blue Jackets themselves.
Okay.
The Blue Jackets have paid for some capital improvements to the arena, the locker rooms, for example. But the arena, of course, is in discussions with them to see what else they might be able to help bankroll.
So I think it's important to understand, too, this arena has hosted, obviously, the Jackets and their games and some playoff games, but it also hosted artists, including Taylor Swift, we mentioned in your story, performed there early in her career. And you have Paul McCartney coming this fall. Yeah. You also have The Shot doing a lot of concerts, too, and shows that they deal with, or that are available for people. But the problem, as I read your story, is if we don't upgrade nationwide, our ability to attract certain events will start to slowly, if not quickly, deteriorate, including NCAA events where they want to have certain standards of space for media and other parts of the what goes with the event.
That's right. Of course, now that Taylor Swift is going to marry an Ohio guy, we expect she'll be there all the time.
Yeah.
But you're right. The NCAA, they've hosted the women's Final Four. They're doing it again in 2027. That's an excellent example of an event that they are worried about losing because of the requirements. In that case, the requirements is for us, for press credentials. Those events, of course, are having enormous press contingent. The arena has struggled to find space to accommodate press crews of that size. In fact, they plan to accommodate it in 2027 by using the ice house, which ironically must be air conditioned.
Yeah, which is not because it's ice.
It's never air conditioned. There's no need for it. But that they don't see as a long-term solution.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The configurations of the arena, moving the offices and so forth, would give them a lot more of those press areas that they feel they need to be competitive.
Well, let's hope they're also busy by then with some Stanley Cup playoff rounds around time, the Final Four and all that.
To be sure.
Okay. So I meant to ask this earlier, but for our listeners out there, the trivia question would be, who was the first concert to take place in Nationwide Arena? And it happened on September 9th, 2000, before the first Jackets games. And it was Faith Hill and Tim McGraw 25 years ago here in September.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff.
Well, here's another piece of trivia.
Okay.
On arena trivia, who performed the most, an artist there? You may have seen it.
I saw it on here.
Okay. Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen them in there once, I think. Yeah, it was a great show.
They're an annual event, of course.
Come back every year. Well, Jim, thank you for taking time to talk to us today about Nationwide Arena. I'll be curious to see where it goes here next and whether they can get these improvements funded to take it into the next 25 years. And also, I just want to thank you for all your service to our readers in the Dispatch and covering all these stories all these years. Anyone who's listened to this whole 20 minutes or so here can tell right away how knowledgeable you are about this topic and many others that you've covered here at the Dispatch. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And thanks to our viewers and listeners today. Appreciate your time, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.